So let's take a look at this CL countdown CAT 6 VARC part 2. So we did 2 RCs in the first part of this. Let's look at the other 2 RCs and the VA part. So this is the third RC of that mock. Doing nothing in a world where everybody seems busy doing something, anything, struck Sioran as the only lifestyle worth pursuing and defending. A life devoid of action and practical ambitions, of distraction from business, is a life in which room has been made for meaning. Anything good comes from indolence or from our incapacity to take action, executing our projects and plans. Sioran wrote, and he behaved accordingly. So this fellow believes in doing nothing. Okay, not really a life full of action. And this is a life which for him has meaning, and this is a lifestyle worth pursuing. And he believes in indolence. Indolence means laziness or sloth. So he is a proponent of doing nothing. Sioran's idleness was serious business. It was an arduous lifetime project into which he put his best efforts and served with complete dedication. He took this path not out of some particularly lazy disposition, but because of his unquenchable thirst for knowledge and understanding. To do nothing at all is the most difficult thing in the world, the most difficult and the most intellectual. Oscar Wilde observed decades before Sioran. If we are to understand the world, we must stop acting upon it and we must contemplate it. Contemplation and action are sworn enemies. Right. So now he further explains idleness is a serious business. And it was not that he was lazy, but he had a unquenchable thirst for knowledge and understanding. So he says to do nothing is very difficult and most intellectual. And to understand this world, we must stop acting, we must contemplate, we must think, we must ponder, we must reflect. And thinking and action are sworn enemies. So here he's trying to give further insights into why he thinks doing nothing is the best thing to do at all. We fail all the time in things large and small, yet our biggest failure will be that as a rule, we don't understand failure. And since we are not equipped to think about it, we can't grasp its broader significance in our lives. When failure happens, and it happens all the time, we instinctively move on without paying much heed or studying it in depth. This must be one of the failure's sweetest victories over us. On a deep level, we are designed to fail and to fail badly. And yet we are conditioned to remain blissfully unaware of failure's darker message because our thinking can't come to terms with it, just as it can't come to terms with death itself. Here he talks about failure, that we don't understand failure. Failure हर समय होता रहता है, हम move on कर जाते हैं, and this is a failure's victory over us. We don't reflect, we don't think कि failure हमें क्या message दे रहा है, because we can't think of failure. We just want to move. Failure के ऊपर हम रुकते ही नहीं है. Just as we can't come to terms with death, we also can't come to terms with failure. The sugar coating of failure is part of large societal process. Everything unpleasant, disturbing, depressing in our culture is neutralized, sterilized, and promptly taken out of view. Not so much for mental health reasons as for economic and social ones. To be productive members of society, to be able to make large amounts of money, to spend even more, to take loans, to pay them back with interest, we need to be hooked to a positive outlook. Capitalism doesn't thrive on loners, depressives, and metaphysicians. Now, why do we do this? Why do we not look at failure more seriously? This sugar coating, so we sugarcoat, that means we don't, we kind of wish it away, we kind of treat it as if it never happened. Why do we do this? Because हमारे कल्चर में जो भी चीज नेगेटिव है, अनप्लेजेंट है, उसको हम न्यूट्रलाइज स्टरलाइज कर देते हैं और अपने सामने से हटा देते हैं. Not because we don't want to lose our mental health, but because of economic and social issues. हमें अगर मेंबर्स, प्रोडक्टिव मेंबर बनना है सोसाइटी का, खूब सारा पैसा बना के उसको खर्च करना है, लोन्स लेने हैं, तो फिर हमें पॉजिटिव आउटलुक रखना पड़ेगा. We cannot have a negative outlook and do all of these things as the capitalistic society wants us to do. Capitalism doesn't thrive on loners, depressives, and metaphysicians. So अगर सारे लोग loners, depressive और metaphysician हो गए, तो capitalism कैसे चलेगा? Capitalism banks upon your positivity. That means today you want to make more money, you want to take bigger loans, you want to pay them back with interest. So all of these things you want to do, right? So that's basically why failure is considered insignificant, or it is taken out of the view. An impressive army of therapists, well-being coaches, yoga instructors, self-help experts, entertainers, educators, entrepreneurs, and other charitable souls is deployed to make sure we don't even stumble upon the dark side of existence, let alone look the void in the face as Sioran used to. This is problematic even when it comes to us through the mediation of art or literature. The great books that explore the abyss of the human soul now come with trigger warnings. Inhaling serious literature is apparently as dangerous as smoking. Granted, the sugarcoating industry had turned life in modern society into a highly artificial affair and largely a mockery, but most people don't seem to mind. For mindlessness is another important dimension of modern life. Such is Sioran's savage wisdom, or could have been. You can't miss the irony. So here he's saying कि आप अगर कुछ भी नेगेटिव सोचते हो या डार्क साइड में जैसे ही आप जाने की कोशिश करते हो तो आपके सामने बहुत सारे थेरेपिस्ट, वेलबींग कोचेज, योगा इंस्ट्रक्टर, सेल्फ हेल्प एक्सपर्ट्स और एंटरटेनर्स ये सब लोग आ जाते हैं. सो दैट यू आर नॉट अलाउड टू गो टू दैट साइड. यू कैन नॉट लुक एट वॉइड, जो ब्लैंक है उसको फेस में देख नहीं सकते आप. इवन इफ लेट्स से यू वांट टू गो थ्रू इट और यू वांट टू रिफ्लेक्ट थ्रू आर्ट और लिटरेचर, तो ग्रेट बुक्स जो बहुत ऐसी डेप्थ एक्सप्लोर करती हैं ह्यूमन सोल का, अब उसके अंदर वार्निंग आती है कि आपके लिए वो डेंजरस हो सकती है. तो ये थोड़ा सा एग्जैजरेशन किया हुआ इसने, थोड़ा सा ह्यूमर लाने की कोशिश की है इसने. तो जो शुगर कोटिंग इंडस्ट्री है जो हमें हर चीज पॉजिटिव दिखाती है, उसने लाइफ को आर्टिफिशियल बना दिया और एक मॉकरी बना दिया. लेकिन लोगों को कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता है, क्योंकि माइंडलेसनेस इज अनदर इंपॉर्टेंट डायमेंशन ऑफ मॉडर्न लाइफ. क्योंकि माइंडलेसनेस भी इसी से आ गई है. वी डोंट इवन पे हीड or we don't mind all of these things. We are mindless towards these things. Such is Sioran's savage wisdom, or could have been. So ये irony क्या है यहाँ पे? His savage wisdom, ये wisdom लोगों को समझ में आता नहीं है. It could have been a wisdom, but people don't look at it. That's the irony. That this is a wisdom, but people don't have the wisdom to look at this wisdom. So basically, this passage talks about how Sioran proposed that you don't take any action, you simply contemplate, you try to decipher the meaning of life, you understand your knowledge, your thirst for knowledge and understanding should be there, and that should prevent you from taking action. You should just think. Failure is also something we have swept out of our lives. We don't pay much attention to it. Plus, whatever negatives come across, or whatever depressing or disturbing things are there, we neutralize, sterilize it, because the capitalistic society wants us to work like that, to be hooked to a positive outlook. And we have an army of therapists and people like that who are ready to help, even if we just venture on the dark side of existence. And even if we try to look at it through literature or art, we are dissuaded. And we don't seem to mind, because mindlessness is another offshoot of this. Now, this was being regarded as Sioran's savage wisdom, if only you had the wisdom to understand it. So let's look at the questions here. Which of the following keyword sequences best describes the main themes of the passage? So Sioran is an important element here, because most of the passage hinges upon Sioran's thoughts and his ideology. Idleness, so he proposes idleness. Failure is swept out of our looks or out of our sights. Mindlessness, yes, mindlessness is an offshoot of this particular way of living. So this looks okay, we can keep it. Idleness, okay. Lazy, the idleness and lazy, almost same type of concept. And then he says he's not lazy. Okay, he was not. He didn't propose idleness because he was lazy. So this seems to be wrong. Capitalism, okay. Mediation. This is not a major idea. Mediation through art and literature, there it was mentioned. So it was not really a big idea. So we can rule it out. Sioran is fine. Contemplation is okay. Failure is okay. But victories, what is this victories here? Victories in the end have not been mentioned. So the victories basically make this option wrong. Idleness, contemplation, sugar coating, therapists. Now Sioran is not here, one important element. Idleness is okay. Contemplation, sugar coating of yes, we can say that. Therapist is not that big thought here. So we can remove it. Correct answer is 1. Each of the following can be inferred as logical extension of ideas set out in the passage except. First says, each of the, a quest for deeper understanding and knowledge that allows in-depth contemplation, coexisting with a life filled with action. This is not correct. This is fine. A quest for deeper understanding and knowledge that allows in-depth contemplation. But he says action is a sworn enemy of contemplation. Contemplation and action are sworn enemies. So how can then contemplation coexist with a life full of action? This is totally distorted and absurd option. And except ka question, so we can definitely mark it and move on. We don't even need to look at next 3. It will save time. Still, tasalli karne ke liye dekh lete hain. Capitalism has perhaps infiltrated philosophy itself, making us evaluate even idleness and failure from an economic standpoint. Yes, ये तो बोल रहा है capitalism जो idleness और failure को भी economic standpoint से देखते हैं. Commodification of well-being has not actually helped us understand life's complexity, but made us functional cogs in an economic machine. ये भी बोल रहा है. Society encouraging us to avoid facing life's darker aspects, a degree of complicity on the part of individuals who are a part of the system. ठीक है. All these are fine. These are logical extension of the ideas, but one is not. The author mentioned in the last sentence, you can't miss the irony. What is the most likely reason for the author to say so? So I had already discussed this. कि ये जो wisdom है, ये savage wisdom, ये wisdom को आप अगर समझ सकते, it could have been if you had been able to understand. ये एक्चुअली एक फॉर्म ऑफ विजडम है, बट आपको उतना विजडम आपके अंदर होना चाहिए कि आप उसको समझ सको. तो इट जक्सटापोजेस मींस पुट्स साइड बाय साइड. Juxtapose means to put side by side. Ideas of mindlessness and idleness to create what is considered, this is totally wrong. वो जो यहाँ पे सिर्फ एक लास्ट सेंटेंस पढ़ना है हमको, such is Cioran's savage wisdom or could have been, you can't miss the irony. तो इसके बेसिस पे हमें आंसर करना है. It highlights the paradox that what society might consider savage could actually be a form of wisdom. Yes, this looks okay. That savage wisdom, basically it is wisdom if you only had the wisdom to accept or understand it. So whatever the society considers savage could be actually a form of wisdom. So this we can keep. It purports the idea that while Cioran's ideology, savage wisdom, it may not be idealistic वगैरह की बात नहीं होती वहाँ पे. It exemplifies a society that contemplates wisdom but is not savage enough to look beyond. This is a distortion. Just using the word savage in a sentence does not make it a correct option. Society is not savage to look beyond itself. See, this is again savage. मतलब क्या होता है? Savage means fierce or ruthless. So savage look beyond, enough to look beyond itself. So this is a total distortion. Correct answer is 2. It's a paradox that what you consider savage could be actually a form of wisdom. It can be inferred from the passage that author would agree with each of the following about failure except. Society conditions people to avoid contemplating them. Yes, that's correct. So it's not the answer. Capitalistic underpinnings treat failure as antithesis to positive outlook. Yes, this also has been mentioned here. Capitalistic sugar coating of failure, right? So all this is given in this 4th paragraph. Humans are psychologically unprepared to confront it. Again, this also has been mentioned here. They are blissfully unaware. We are conditioned to be blissfully unaware of darker message of failure. So we are psychologically unprepared to confront it. It created the dimension of mindlessness. This is totally wrong here. So this is the correct answer. Mindlessness is a different thing here. We don't mind whatever sugarcoating happens and makes life or makes modern society into a highly artificial affair and largely a mockery. People don't seem to mind it because this mindlessness is another offshoot of this modern life. So this we cannot say that failure has it created the dimension of mindlessness in society. This is a total distortion. So we can eliminate. We can put that as the answer because the question was except. Right. So I hope the passage and the questions are clear. Let's move on to the next one. Throughout history, civilizations have come and gone, with them their unique sports. This pattern leads to ask what happens to the sports of a bygone culture. The answer appears simple. When a culture disappears, so do its sports. Yet the Olympics stand out as an exception. Modern Olympic Games, initiated in 1896, bear only a nominal resemblance to their ancient Greek predecessor, which some believe were abolished in the 4th century, allegedly due to Roman Empire's conversion to Christianity. So this talks about sports which were associated with different civilizations. So as civilizations came and went, unique sports also went away. And only so when a culture disappears, so do its sports. This is what the norm used to be, except for the Olympics. Olympics जो है वो exception है. Modern Olympic Games 1896 में हुए थे, और they have only a nominal, or a very nominal means बहुत ऊपर से resemblance है जो ओरिजिनल ओलंपिक से, और जिनको की 4th century में abolish कर दिया गया था due to allegedly, not confirmed, alleged means not confirmed, due to Roman Empire's conversion to Christianity. ऐसा लोग कहते हैं. The modern Olympics, inaugurated in 1896 by French aristocrat Pierre de Coubertin, claim to be a revival of these ancient games. Yet the resemblance is in the name. So resemblance जो है वो ऊपर से, जैसा nominal resemblance बोल रहा है. And the 4-year frequency alone, सिर्फ 4 साल में पहले भी होते थे और अभी भी 4 साल में. In an attempt to pay homage to the ancient roots, modern Olympics included the discus throw in its athletic lineup. However, this was little more than a symbolic gesture. Even the participating Greek athletes were unfamiliar with the technique of discus throwing, further underlining the gulf between ancient and modern incarnations of the Olympics. तो ये बताइए कि कितना सिमिलैरिटी है दोनों में. हार्डली एनी सिमिलैरिटी है, सिर्फ 4 साल में एक बार होते हैं, सिर्फ नाम की सिमिलैरिटी है. वो भी ओलंपिक्स थे, ये भी ओलंपिक्स है. और इसमें एक उन्होंने डिस्कस थ्रो भी रख दिया था क्योंकि वो उस टाइम हुआ करता था, लेकिन वो सिर्फ सिंबॉलिक जेस्चर है क्योंकि ना तो वो पार्टिसिपेटिंग ग्रीक एथलीट्स उसके फेमिलियर है, और इसके कारण बताता है कि कितना डिफरेंस है बिटवीन एंशिएंट एंड मॉडर्न versions of Olympics. A comparison of foot races serve as an illuminating lens to highlight the elemental difference between ancient and modern Olympic games. In the 8th century BC, the games at Olympia in Greece started with just a 1-foot race. Over time, although a few more foot races were added, they never matched the scale and diversity of today's Olympic events. So अब ये एक फुट रेस को भी कंपेयर करके देखना है कि पुराने और एंशिएंट और मॉडर्न ओलंपिक गेम में कितना फर्क है. तो 8th century में गेम ऑफ एट ओलंपिया इन ग्रीस स्टार्टेड विद 1-foot रेस. फिर बहुत सारी फुट रेस ऐड हो गई, लेकिन जो आज की जो सिचुएशन में जितनी स्केल और डाइवर्सिटी है उतनी तो नहीं है. The athletes had to be ethnically Greek, free adult males. No slaves or foreigners were allowed, and women could neither compete nor spectate. तो पहले बहुत रिजिड थे ये लोग. जो पार्टिसिपेंट्स होते थे उन्हें एथनिकली ग्रीक होना चाहिए, फ्री एडल्ट मेल्स होना चाहिए, स्लेव्स नहीं हो सकते, फॉरेनर्स भी नहीं हो सकते. विमेन को तो अलाउड ही नहीं था कॉम्पीट करना, ना कि देखना भी. स्पेक्टेट मीन्स टू वॉच. These races were neither timed nor standardized, and the distance was measured in stades, the length of which varied from stadium to stadium. Conversely, today's Olympic foot races are characterized by a level of standardization and inclusivity that would have been unimaginable to the ancient Greeks. Athletes from nearly 200 nations participate, irrespective of race, ethnicity, or religion. So now he's given the difference between the ancient and the modern Olympics by way of foot races. Just one foot race थी in 8th century, and बाद में थोड़ी बहुत और आ गई. लेकिन जितनी आज की है, जितनी सोफिस्टिकेशन, जितनी स्टैंडर्डाइजेशन आज है, वी ऑल नो दैट 100th of a second से जीत जाता है आदमी. उस टाइम पे वो सिर्फ एथनिकली ग्रीक लोगों को अलाउ करते थे, फ्री एडल्ट मेल्स को करते थे, नो स्लेव फॉरेनर्स. विमेन को तो देखने भी नहीं देते थे, और डिस्टेंस भी जो था वेरी करता रहता था. और आज के जो ओलंपिक के एथलीट्स होते हैं उसमें 200 नेशन पार्टिसिपेट करते हैं, and irrespective of ethnicity, race, or religion. The meticulous details governing modern foot races reflect the seismic shift in our approach to sports. In ancient times, participants were screened by religious authorities, whereas today athletes are vetted by National Olympic Committee. Clothing and footwear have evolved into specialized gear engineered to enhance performance. Races are meticulously timed to 100th of a second. Tracks are standardized even down to the width of each lane. Such extreme quantification and standardization are far removed from the fluidity and religious overtones of ancient games. Aristotle might have considered this an obsession rather than a pursuit of excellence. So now he's saying the details, the standardization, the level of finesse or the level of detailing that is done today. So that those people could not have even imagined. Even the the gear, what they wear, clothing, footwear is standardized to enhance performance. And such kind of quantification and standardization are too different from fluidity and religious overtones of ancient games. And Aristotle might have called this an obsession, or an obsession over a trivial matter rather than a pursuit of excellence. The secularization of modern sports has erased their original regional significance. While ancient games were spiritual events, today's sports are driven more by competition and commercial interests. Nonetheless, this transformation doesn't indicate complete loss of original essence. Today's sports, particularly Olympics, still capture human spirituality in their rituals, idols, and redemption narratives. Therefore, while cultures and sports may vanish, the human element that birthed them reincarnate in forms reflecting contemporary values. The essence of competition, though transformed, continues to serve as a quasi-religious ceremony. So here he's now saying that all this secularization of sports, that means religious overtones have vanished. So earlier there were spiritual events. Today they are more competition and commercial events. However, this does not mean that the original essence is lost. So human spirituality abhi bhi hai usme, in terms of rituals, still capture human spirituality in the rituals, idols, and redemption narratives. Now, this doesn't mean literally. Okay, this doesn't literally mean the idol means the मूर्ति और रिलीजियस मूर्ति के आइडल्स बेसिकली जो आइकन्स हैं, जैसे उसेन बोल्ट हो गया, ओके, रिचुअल्स जो वो करते हैं, रिडेम्पशन नैरेटिव्स मींस लेट्स से somebody has gone from rags to riches, poor people participate and they become very successful, world class athletes become celebrities, earn billions of dollars. So in that there is a spirituality. Earlier spirituality was more to do with the religious events. Therefore, still, while cultures and sports may vanish, the human element that birthed them reincarnate in the form to reflect contemporary values. Contemporary values change. Earlier, religious rituals were more important. Now, these rituals, in terms of these participants and the way the whole process is, that is more important. The essence of competition, though transformed, continue to serve as a quasi-religious. Quasi means partial religious. So this is religious, not in the sense of religion, worship. This is in the sense that people look at it as a religion. So sports is a religion. आप लोगों ने सुना होगा, if cricket is a religion and Sachin is a god. Now, Sachin is a god doesn't mean that Sachin's idol should be put in a mandir and people will start worshipping it. Not in that sense. Yes, there are fans, there are people who worship him, but in a different sense, in an idolatry form, reflecting contemporary values. Okay, he will earn billions of dollars. He will be a celebrity. He'll be very famous. So, in that sense, it's quasi-religious. They take it to a religious extent. But here, the author is not saying that he is religious in the sense that वो पूजा पाठ वाला दिन. So I hope this is clear. So this passage was about what are the differences between, or how different are the modern Olympics from the ancient Olympics? What was the origin of Olympics? Why did they disappear? Then how did they again start? And what are the differences between the ancient and modern Olympic Games? In what way has the spirituality retained in modern Olympics? And it has transformed. The essence of competition has transformed and continues to serve as a quasi-religious ceremony. Why does the author call the modern Olympics a quasi-religious ceremony? Abhi humne discuss kiya. Let's look at the options. While the modern Olympics has lost the original essence of religiosity, it still epitomizes contemporary religious values. देखिए ये गलत है ना. Contemporary religious values of rituals and idols नहीं है ये. ये जो values of rituals, idols, as I explained to you, ये in the form of those athletes, in the form of those sports person, ये वो है ये. This is not in terms of gods and goddesses. यहाँ पे it still epitomizes contemporary religious values of rituals and idols means the way the worship is done in maybe places of worship, temples, mosques, churches, उस तरह की बात कर. तो ये नहीं है. This is wrong. While religious overtones in ancient Olympics have been replaced by the secularized version of the competition, the essential religious notions still remain. Again, this is wrong. While commercial interests largely drive the modern Olympics, they still capture the aspects of human spirituality, much like a religious ceremony would. Yes. So here he's comparing it. He's not making it into a religious ceremony. He's not saying that there is a religious ceremony, but he's comparing it much like a religious ceremony would. So you can make a comparison by way of a simile or a metaphor, but you cannot say that this is a religious ceremony. There's a difference, right? So 3 looks okay. While the modern Olympics transformed from an event of religious significance to a non-religious one, it still maintains exclusivity akin to a religious ceremony. Exclusivity akin to a religious ceremony. ये कहाँ से? So this is not supported. 3 is the right answer. All of the following statements can be considered as not true about ancient Olympics except. So not true about ancient Olympics. This is double negative, which means true. So if we can rephrase it, we can say that all of the following statement can be considered as true. Now, which of the following statement can be considered as true? Okay, so the rephrasing of this in simple terms is which of the following can be considered as true. Enslaved people were not allowed to witness events. Can we say this? ये हम सोच सकता है हमें कि true है, लेकिन ऐसा लिखा नहीं है कहीं पे भी. Only thing what he has mentioned is that no slaves were allowed. Okay, the athletes had to be ethnically Greek free adult mates. No slaves were allowed. But whether they were allowed to watch, that has not been mentioned. Women were not allowed to watch or spectate. But whether slaves were allowed to watch, that has not been mentioned, and therefore we cannot infer it. So this is wrong. Greek society viewed it as a quest for excellence. No, Greek society did not view it as a quest for excellence. जैसा कि इन्होंने कई जगह बताया है कि वहाँ पे इन्होंने these races were neither timed nor standardized. Distance was measured in shades. तो ये इसमें स्पिरिट ऑफ कंपटीशन था ही नहीं उस टाइम पे. तो मेजर डिफरेंस ही है कि उस टाइम पे स्पिरिट ऑफ कंपटीशन नहीं था, तो इट वाज नॉट रियली अ क्वेस्ट फॉर एक्सीलेंस. resembles the modern Olympics only on a few surface level attributes. Yes, ये nominal बताया यहाँ पे, only a nominal resemblance, plus only in the name and a Fourier frequency. सिर्फ ऊपर से resemblance है. So ये तो बताया हुआ है, right? So we can keep it. Christians viewed them as an abomination. Abomination means object of hatred. Object of hatred. Is it so? We might think that ऐसा है, लेकिन क्या ऐसा है? Let's check. The modern Olympics bear only nominal resemblance to their Greek predecessor, which some believe were abolished in the 4th century, allegedly, due to Roman Empire's conversion to Christianity. So allegedly means ऐसा कहा जाता है. It's not confirmed. Whereas this option says they viewed them as an object of hatred, and therefore they stopped the Olympic Games. So that's wrong. That's wrong because यहाँ पे alleged लिखा हुआ है. So we cannot construe that they viewed them as an abomination. Therefore, this is wrong. Correct answer is 3. Resemble the modern Olympics only on a few surface level attributes. Which one of the following best describes the logical structure of the passage? The passage introduces an individual element of an ancient tradition, shifts focus on examining its modern evolution, and concludes by extrapolating this to the broader changes in the tradition itself. ऐसा तो नहीं है. Let's read the next. Passage commences by listing enduring elements in a long-standing custom, proceeds to question the modern adaptations, and ends up by mulling over ethical implications. देखो ना तो ये ethical implication है end में, ना वो question कर रहा है उसका modern adaptation. तो ओलंपिक के modern adaptation को क्या question कर रहा है वो? ऐसा क्यों करते हैं हम? ऐसा नहीं करना चाहिए. ऐसा कुछ नहीं कह रहा है, और ethical implication कुछ नहीं है, तो इसको तो हम easily eliminate कर सकते हैं. The passage starts by identifying a general trend concerning the loss of cultural practices. Yes, ये बोल रहा है कि जो कल्चर चला गया तो उसके साथ में स्पोर्ट्स भी चले जाते हैं उसके. Discusses an exception. क्या exception है? Olympics नहीं गए. Olympics survived. Okay, most of these civilizations, when they went, the sports associated with them also went away. But not so in the case of Olympics. Therefore, this looks okay. Discusses an exception and concludes by contrasting and linking these exceptions, old and new forms. Yes, ancient Olympics and modern Olympics have been compared on different levels. So this looks okay. No other option. If you see one did not have this, one can also be eliminated. Passage opens with exploration of a spiritual significance of a traditional practice. There is no spiritual significance in the opening. The transition through its modern secular iteration and finally argues the original essence has been lost. So original essence, first of all, has not been lost. Essence in the sense that religiosity or that spirituality has not been lost. It has been transformed into something else, but it has not been lost. So this is also wrong. Correct answer is 3. Which of the following is least supported by the information given in the passage? While the ancient Olympics might have been less concerned with the quantification of athletic performance, the modern Olympics seems to prioritize and metrics and records as a measure of excellence. Yes, DIY. This is not the answer. While the ancient Olympics likely emphasize the individual glory and spiritual significance of athletic prowess, the modern Olympics seem to underscore collective national representation and foster a sense of global unity. So while the ancient Olympics likely emphasized the individual glory and spiritual significance of the athletic prowess, the modern Olympics seem to underscore collective national representation and foster a sense of global unity. Okay, we'll look for what information supports this. We'll keep it. While the ancient Olympics presumably valued tradition and cultural purity, modern Olympics appear to embrace diversity and adaptation. Yes, this looks okay. This is there in the passage. It is supported. Value tradition hai, and cultural purity. So only ethnically Greek people can attend it, not foreigners, women, and even slaves. Modern Olympics with diversity hai, irrespective of ethnicity, race, gender, adaptation. This looks okay, so this is not the answer. So 2 we have ruled out. We are left with 2. While the ancient Olympics presumably maintained their structure over centuries due to religious continuity, the modern Olympics is more adaptable, reflecting improved value systems. Again, here, religious continuity. Nothing has been mentioned in terms of religious continuity. Let's check whether this is supported. Individual glory and spiritual significance of athletic prowess. So let's read it here. In homage discussed through a little more than even the participating were unfamiliar, further underlying the gulf. A comparison of foot races served as an illuminating lens to highlight the element difference. In the 8th century, a game at Olympia with just 1 foot race. Over time, more foot races added. They never matched the scale and diversity of today's. Athletes had to be ethnically Greek, free adult males, no slaves, foreigners. So women could neither compete nor spectate. These races were neither timed nor standardized. Distance was measured in states and length of which varied from stadium. Conversely, today's Olympic foot races are characterized by a level of standardization and inclusivity that would have been unimaginable to the ancient Greeks. At least from nearly 200 nations participate. So, so far, I don't see anything to support this. Likely emphasize the individual glory and spiritual significance of athletic prowess. And modern seem to underscore collective national representation and foster a sense of global unity. अभी तक तो नहीं मिला किसी. ठीक है, maybe global unity. Yes, okay, fine. You can say that. Global unity मिल गया हमें, right? Collective representation, national and sense of global unity. ये हम इससे कह सकते हैं कि athletes from 200 nations participate, irrespective of this. So this looks okay. The second part. The meticulous details governing modern foot races reflect the seismic shifts in participants who were screened by religious authorities. Today, the athletes are vetted by National Olympics. Clothes and footwear have evolved into specialized, meticulously timed, even research was far removed from the fluidity and religious overtones. Aristotle might have said secularization has erased their original religious significance. Today's sports are more driven by were spiritual events. Transformation doesn't indicate the complete loss of original essence. Still capture human spirituality, incarnate in the form of contemporary values. So I don't know. This is spiritual significance is okay, but athletic prowess, emphasize the glory. This is question mark. I can't seem to find anything to support this. Okay, and here also I can't find anything to support this religious continuity. There is nothing. They presumably maintained their structure over centuries due to religious community. Nothing continuity. This has not been mentioned. This part second is okay. So I don't know. The correct answer given officially is 4, but I can't find anything to suggest this. Therefore, this is doubtful. But anyway, what he says is okay. So we saw yesterday in two of the in the RCs, there a couple of questions were there which were not really up to the mark. The language plus the rationality or the logic of the questions were not, the options were not understood. Today we found one question, one such question where I cannot find anything to support this to these two things. Here, this fourth is okay. I agree that fourth is okay because religious continuity has not been talked about anywhere. But how do we justify this? So this is again a gray area. So still, today's two RCs were better than the second one. Yesterday, if we did the first RC, that was very easy to understand, traditional knowledge, but questions were not at all difficult, but they were vague. They were ambiguous options. Second RC, Yiddish, again, difficult to understand little, but couple of questions were dicey. Today, first RC, we should be not taking action, but contemplating CORAN. That I think is an exception here today, because that had all logical questions and options. This RC also, till the last question, everything was going all right. This is the last question में थोड़ा सा challenge. So this mock, if you ask me 4 passages, they were relatively much easier than the passages in the earlier CL mocks. There is absolutely no doubt that somebody who can do all, would have struggled to leave one. Okay, which one to leave? Because all 4 were looking juicy. All 4 were not difficult to understand, except Yiddish. Maybe you might have left Yiddish. You could have done 1, 2, 1, 3, and 4. Third was anyway a very straightforward RC. Fourth also Olympic. Everybody knows what is Olympics. You can always relate to this. तो अगर आप देखेंगे कि ये जो इस बार की मॉक सीरीज है इसमें सीएल के पैसेजेस आर गुड. दे सोर्स इट. They are interesting. That I must give it to them. That at least their passages are interesting to read, and they get a diverse mix of passages. Quite a few contemporary passages also. Not like Time, which has gone from bad to worse, and it is still now aiming for even much worse situation. Totally pathetic passages. No head or tail. I don't know from where they are getting and who is advising them. But they need to really give a serious look. So CL passages, okay, all right. This mock easier passages. You could have done three RCs. Again, 1 or 2 questions here or there dicey. That's okay. Now let's take a look at the VA part. So blank. An Aristotelian companion friend cannot be one who is more interested in having the approval of the other friend than in doing what is right by that friend. तो एरिस्टोटियल जो है फ्रेंड वो नहीं हो सकता जो कि आपका अप्रूवल चाहता है रादर देन कि जो राइट कर रहा है वो चीज. तो उसको व्हाट यू डू राइट ही इज मोर इंटरेस्टेड इन दैट रादर देन हैविंग द अप्रूवल ऑफ अदर फ्रेंड. तो क्या फर्स्ट पे आ सकता है? नहीं. एरिस्टोटल ऑब्जर्व we become just by acting justly. Okay, he did not mean something so banal as the view that justice is simply a matter of mindless repetition. अगेन फ्रेंड अभी आया नहीं है यहाँ पे कहीं पे. अभी तो सिर्फ एरिस्टोटल ने जस्ट की बात बताई. रादर ही वाज मेकिंग अ प्रोफाउंड पॉइंट अबाउट. अब अगर हमने इस वाले सेंटेंस को सेकंड पर रख दिया तो ही किसको बताएंगे? सी ही हैज टू रेफर टू एरिस्टोटल, राइट? और दिस ही हियर. तो वी कैन नॉट ब्रिंग एनीथिंग इन बिटवीन हियर टू डिस्टर्ब दिस. तो ऊपर तो नहीं आएगा. Rather, he was making a profound point about character formation. Point is being made here is that it is in a like manner that we grasp that we have a sense of worth and so should be treated fairly, namely by being so treated. And in this regard, parents serve as a point of departure for every child. अभी तक देखो friend की कोई बात नहीं हुई है, तो इसलिए ये free पे भी आ सकता. Only place to come for this sentence is at 4. An individual who has been the beneficiary of abiding parental love is less likely to be that kind of person. That kind of person. Now this is a clue. Which kind of person? Okay, so अगर हम इसको फोर्थ में नहीं रखेंगे इस सेंटेंस को, can we say that kind of person means which kind of person? There is nothing in this sentence. अगर हम suppose फोर्थ में नहीं रखते तो इस सेंटेंस में there is nothing that can be that kind of person. So that kind of person is basically this Aristotelian companion friend. Right? So therefore this comes 4. So this was a clue, and of course other clues also that it cannot come at 1, 2, and 3. So all in all, Easy to moderate question. The personalization that platforms claim to offer is dying. Platforms like Amazon, Uber, and Netflix all took something that was more or less working, promised us something better. It worked for a while. We still get cheap books and blah blah. However, the promise of platform production is personalization. They know what products you might like, what shows you might want to watch, you might not want to date. When the bottom comes from the model, though, because financing is unsustainable, labor is rebelling, the fancy algorithms stop mattering as much. When the options get fewer, costs go up, jobs get worse. Living with algorithm goes from being delightful to being a degraded copy of the capitalism that preceded it. So he's telling you the story which we all know by way of our experience and exposure to all of these services. Amazon these days, or Prime Video these days, wants to charge you for anything that is worth watching. Earlier, everything was free. Now, anything you want to watch is chargeable. Exactly the same situation he's saying, because finance is unsustainable. They don't make too much money. And therefore, they are trying to restrict your options. Options get fewer. So it's a story that everybody experiences. Initially, the promise seemed to be huge, but gradually we realized that they are no better than the earlier cable services or the dish services, which were charging a lot. So it goes from being delightful to being a degraded copy of the capitalism that preceded it. The core promise of platforms is personalization based on algorithm, but these very algorithms are not important anymore due to lack of delight. ये तो बिल्कुल ही नहीं है इसका कहना. So this we can easily eliminate. Lack of delight. There is nothing called as delight here. Platforms like Amazon, Uber, and Netflix have failed in the promise of personalization because they succumb to the capitalistic framework of focusing on bottom line. Now, failed. Have they already failed, or they are getting there? So, promise of platform production is dying. The personalization is dying. It is not yet dead. Right? So, it is going from, it is not totally finished. So, this have failed is a very extreme word to use here. And plus, these examples generally should not be given. Platforms like these three, because they succumb to capitalistic framework of focusing on bottom lines. See, this is again a distorted way of presenting it. He's saying financing is unsustainable and labor problems are there, and therefore they need to. So that has led to a decline in whatever the options and the other things. Cost has gone up, right? So it is not as if they are succumbing to capitalistic framework. It is just that finance has become unstable, labor is rebelling, and this has led to the situation. So this is a distorted and a wrong option on many counts. While the promise of platforms is personalization, these platforms fail to fulfill that promise due to fancy algorithms that have ceased to matter. Again, this is a very, very restricted and a narrow view. And this is failed to fulfill that promise, already failed. Plus, what is the reason? That they've not mentioned here. The unsustainable financing and labor rebelling, that is not mentioned here. The initial promise of personalized experiences on the platform is deteriorating due to unsustainable financing and labor issues, leading to a declining quality in option. Only thing is, I took a little time to decide on this because decline in quality, have they mentioned options get fewer is okay. Costs go up. So they have not mentioned about the cost here. Jobs get worse. So decline in quality. So okay, when we compare 4, we can maximum compare with 2. Okay, 2 is the nearest, but 2 के अंदर बहुत सारे problem है, so we will live with this. See, in summary, you have to live with some problems. You cannot expect each and every summary to be perfect. So you need to accept certain issues. Only thing is, you need to be able to weigh carefully that which is more important, what you are accepting or something that the other option has. So here, the other option is worse in many regards. Therefore, despite this small little irritant being there, we have to accept it. So 4 is the right answer. All right. So that's a change from 2019 when just 3 researchers were among the attendees at a linguistics conference. So we will need to understand what is that change. Earlier, only 3 researchers went, and now, so now many have gone, right? So volunteers have collectively published hundreds and including translation models of at least 38 African language and presented several workshops at major AI conferences. So volunteers have had translation models and presented it at several workshops. And this is a change, right? That's a change from 2019 when just 3 researchers were present. And here now we are saying that they presented several workshops. So this 2 and 1 are a mandatory pair. 2 and 1 mandatory pair. Masakhane's most lasting legacy may be its people. Now this Masakhane might be some kind of a language or something, whatever it is. This looks to be the opening statement. For many volunteers, Masakhane has been a stepping stone towards pursuing academic research in AI, and project has created a pipeline of AI researchers who are native speakers of African language. Okay, so it's kind of a language. So 3 and 4 again are a pair. So it's lasting legacies people. For many volunteers, it has been a stepping stone. Volunteers have collectively published this and presented several workshops, and that's a change from 19 when only 3 were there. So that's the logic of this particular paragraph. So 3, 4, 2, 1 becomes the correct order. यहाँ पे आपको एक थोड़ा सा हो सकता है कि एक कंफ्यूजन होता है कि 3 के बाद में 2 पे चले जाएं एंड देन 4 पे चले जाएं और फिर 1 पे चले जाएं, राइट? बट उसमें आपको ये जस्टिफाई करना पड़ेगा दैट्स अ चेंज फ्रॉम 2019 में जस्ट 3 रिसर्चर्स वर अमंग द अटेंडीज. तो क्या 4 में ऐसा कुछ बता रहा है अटेंडीज का? तो 4 में ऐसा कुछ नहीं है दैट मेनी अटेंडीज हैव नाउ स्टार्टेड पार्टिसिपेटिंग इन मेजर एआई कॉन्फ्रेंसेस, ऐसा नहीं दिखा है इसमें 4 में. इसलिए 4 और 1 का एक पेयर नहीं बन सकता है, राइट? सो अगर आपको ये डाउट भी हो रहा था तो नाउ यू कैन बैनिश दैट डाउट. ओके, सो 3, 4, 2, 1 इज द करेक्ट ऑर्डर. While the book Who Me Poor is just another poor little rich person trope turned into non-fiction book, what the author definitely lacks is the understanding that these urban poor are the exceptions and not rules. So ये कह रहा है कि so see what is a trope? Trope is a figurative or metaphorical use of a word or expression. Okay, so it's a metaphorical use of a word. So while the book Who Me Poor is just another poor little rich person trope. Poor little rich person trope. Trope मतलब कि जो metaphor बन जाए. Or a theme, kind of a theme. Okay, this becomes a theme. Turn into a non-fiction book, but the author definitely lacks the understanding these urban poor are exception and not the rule. This is not to say that it doesn't warrant talking about it, but depiction of idea is extremely problematic. In the last section, she enlists certain points to promote financial literacy. While the points are very naive, they could definitely help books' target audience, those who feel completely lost and those who are recent migrants from urban settlements to large cities who do not know how to manage their finances. तो ये Who Me Poor करके बुक है, तो बता रहा है कि यार ये कोई बुक जो है, this is basically this lacks understanding कि ये जो urban poor हैं ये एक्सेप्शंस हैं, रूल नहीं है, मतलब ऐसे बहुत कम है ये. यू विल नॉट फाइंड टू मेनी इन नंबर्स. तो इसका मतलब ये नहीं कि इनके बारे में बात नहीं करें और ये प्रॉब्लमेटिक है, बल्कि ये है कि ठीक है हमें थोड़ी सी फाइनेंशियल लिटरेसी ये उसमें प्रमोट करनी है. नाउ सम ऑफ द पॉइंट्स आर वेरी नाइव, मतलब बहुत ही बचकाने से पॉइंट्स हैं, लेकिन फिर भी ये जो ऑडियंस है जिसको कुछ भी नहीं पता है, अभी रिसेंटली माइग्रेट होकर आया हुआ है स्मॉल अर्बन सेटलमेंट, जैसे कहीं बिहार से माइग्रेट होकर आया है शहर में, उसको कुछ भी नहीं पता है अभी, तो उनके लिए थोड़ी बहुत हेल्प हो सकती है. It is definitely a good idea to be conscious of money matters if you find yourself in debt month after month. However, if you played poker and lost multiple months of worth of salary due to stakes involved, you have an addiction problem more than a problem of financial literacy. तो ये कह रहा है कि देखो अच्छी बात है कि आप कॉन्शियस हो मनी मैटर्स के लिए, अगर आप हर महीने उधार ले लगे रहते हो तो, लेकिन अगर आपने कोई पोकर या कोई ऑनलाइन गेमिंग या कोई आपने कोई सट्टा बाजारी कुछ करी और बहुत सारे महीनों की सैलरी गंवा दी, तो आपको फाइनेंशियल लिटरेसी नहीं है, ये एडिक्शन प्रॉब्लम. सो व्हाट इज ट्राइंग टू सजेस्ट इज कि ये जो बुक है ये ऐसा फाइनेंशियल लिटरेसी के थोड़ी सी चाइल्डिश बुक है, नाइव बुक है, लेकिन ठीक है थोड़ी बहुत हेल्प हो सकती है जो लोग अभी अभी आए हैं सिटीज़ में, माइग्रेंट्स अभी रिसेंटली जो आए हैं, तो ठीक है उनके लिए. लेकिन अगर इसमें आप ये सोच रहे हो कि इफ़ यू लूज multiple months of salary, then that's not a issue of financial literacy, that is an addiction problem. The book Who Me Poor is unworthy given that it lacks a nuanced understanding of urban poor, presents a naive view of money management and leaves out the negative impact of money. तो अब इसमें is unworthy. ये थोड़ा सा see here he's not totally ruling it out. Unworthy means इसको 0 marks दे दिए. Whereas here he's saying they could definitely help the book's largest audience, target audience. While the points are very naive, they could definitely help. That means there are some positives. Even though overall book may be useless, but there are definitely some positives. तो इसलिए unworthy तो इसको नहीं बोल सकते. ठीक है. दूसरा, leaves out negative impact of money. What is negative impact of money? See, gambling addiction problem is not negative impact of money. That's a psychological or that's a personality trait, or it has its roots somewhere else. So negative impact of money nahi hai, right? So these two things make it wrong. The book Whom We Poor is a narrow portrayal of urban poverty, but its naive financial literacy tips could be helpful for its target audience, though the book fails to address other issues like addiction. तो यहाँ तक ठीक है, यहाँ तक is a narrow portrayal of urban poverty, but its naive financial could be helpful, though the book fails to address other issues like addiction. Addiction की बात तो की हुई है इसमें, और लेकिन यहाँ पे ये क्लियरली इसने नहीं बोला है कि the book fails to address other issues. बोला है क्या ये? I don't think so. Author definitely lacks his understanding. This is not to say it doesn't warrant depiction. Last section and list certain points to promote. They would help this. It's definitely a good idea to be conscious of money matters. However, if you played poker and lost multiple billion years due to stakes, you have an addiction problem. I don't know. I don't agree with this 100%. Book fails to address other issues. Maybe it is true, maybe not. We'll keep it. The book does have elements that are worth discussing and may help a few, but the ideas presented are really problematic because they neglect the issues related to financial. Again, this is not correct, because what he's saying is that the addiction problems, it is not a problem of financial literacy. So you have an addiction problem more than a problem of financial literacy की तो address कर रही है ना ये. Financial literacy को तो इसने कर रही है address. So this is wrong. This is totally wrong. The book Whom We Poor is an overly simplistic take on financial literacy as it compares money management to gambling and addiction. This is totally a distortion. यहाँ तक सही चल रहा था, यहाँ पे बिल्कुल ही गलत. So only option left is second. So as I said, that since every option has something or the other wrong, so we'll have to see which is the one that we can live with. So we can live with 2. Okay, so 2 was the correct answer.